Night smells of wax and incense. I am the royal confessor, summoned not to pray, but to witness. The silk on the bed is stretched tight, like a drum before execution. Behind the door, the crowd whispers saints' names, not for grace, but for legitimacy. The queen barely breathes beneath her heavy veil. The king holds a face borrowed from men who never sleep in peace. Curtains close and the theater begins. Father, guard the innocent. God, hush the crowd. Prince of Peace, still the drums. Angel of Light, reveal the truth. In the Middle Ages, the wedding night was not secret but notarized. Blankets became seals, the bedsheet a charter, witnesses the scribes, and the whole realm demanded to see the ink. Someone presses silver into my palm. Someone crosses themselves as if faith were a lock and shame its only key. On the table stands a chalice of wine, meant not to bless love, but to ratify contract. I record glances, gestures, silences, things no parchment can rewrite. Angel of mercy, cover the trembling. Angel of justice, keep watch. Angel of wisdom, guide the scribe. Angel of consolation, mend the hearts. I have seen wars where cities fell, yet none equal the battle in this chamber. Here, blood is not always a wound, but evidence. Tears are not sorrow, but signatures. The young woman knows her name now belongs to borders. The man knows his body is currency of peace. I know I am not watching people, but a kingdom stitched together with the coarse thread of ritual. I choose truth over rumor. I choose compassion. I choose to protect the weak. I choose silence where shame begins. Servants draw the canopy lower than usual, as if less air meant fewer witnesses. I hear outside the wall they count prayers like Pater Noster, as though devotion were an hourglass of power. A window is left ajar. Should anything go wrong, the wind will carry cries into the square, feeding gossip that fuels armies. We live in a land where love is taxed and chastity is a map of alliances. I choose courage in the doorway. I choose peace instead of spectacle. I breathe and release fear. I release the need to judge. When all is done, the sheet will be carried like a banner. Tomorrow, chroniclers will braid this night into history, and the Chancellor into treaties. Yet tonight, between candle and shadow, I hear the quietest truth. Every royal marriage costs not kingdoms, but hearts. And if one asks why royal weddings were worse than we imagine, the answer whispers from silence itself. I forgive those who looked away. I stand with the voiceless. I wait on your timing. Father, let dignity return. The hall is dressed like a chapel, but arranged like an arsenal. Maps hide beneath brocade. Goblets crowd the borders of a campaign. Minstrels play loud to drown the scratch of quills. I'm the royal confessor set at the counting table, where dowry chests open like wounds and promises smell of wax and iron. They call it a wedding feast. It feels like an armistice no one trusts. Father, steady the scales. Lord of hosts, disarm our hearts. God of covenant, sanctify this bargain. Spirit of truth, expose the hidden clauses. In this kingdom, a bride is a treaty with a pulse. Her veil weighs as much as garrison pay. Pearls are tallied beside the names of frontier towns, promised to change flags if the marriage fails. A bishop blesses the wine, a treasurer blesses the arithmetic. Ambassadors trade smiles the way soldiers trade passwords at night. Angel of counsel, stand at the table. Angel of fortitude, strengthen the small. Angel of prudence, temper the fervor. Angel of protection, shelter the bride. The king lifts his cup like a helm. The queen lowers her eyes like a treaty seal. I'm asked to speak of love, but every face waits for the logistics. 10 ships of wool, 3 of salt, a promise of mercenaries if the harvest sours. This is what they mean by forever. The bride's mother grips my sleeve. Her hand says, hostage. Her lips say honor. Somewhere a steward tests the hinges of the strong room, because even peace needs locks. I choose justice before tribute. I choose mercy over advantage. I choose restraint in power. I choose to listen before I speak. I lay down the weapon of my words. They dance, but the floorboards tick like a war clock. An envoy unfolds a second parchment: contingencies for betrayal, compensation for miscarried heirs, tariffs dressed as benedictions. The candles burn low, and the shadows look like cavalry entering a valley. If love exists here, it survives in the pauses, in the hand that steadies a trembling cup. By dawn, riders will fly to fortresses with news that the border lives or dies by a ring. I breathe and welcome clarity. I open my hands to peace. Shepherd of souls, keep the captives free. Maker of kings, remind us of dust. Holy wisdom, govern our counsels. I wait for wisdom to ripen. I honor the unseen who pay the price. At sunrise, the ledgers will close and the gates will open. And far from this shining hall, a small door will knock. A courier come to measure a girl for a crown she cannot lift. Dawn lifts the frost from the flagstones, and the palace exhales as if it's been holding its breath since she was born. The veil is longer than her footsteps. The crown smith has padded the circlet so it won't slide over eyes that still look for tutors in doorways. I walk beside her as the litter waits, a priest in black and a court that pretends this is joy. Father, protect the small. God, soften hardened hearts. Prince of Peace, keep watch at the gate. Angel of guardianship, walk beside her. Angel of hope, light the road. In these halls, girlhood is a language no one bothers to learn. Dolls are packed like contraband, songs swallowed in the throat because treaties dislike lullabies. The seamstress tucks a prayer into the hem. The herald rehearses titles older than mercy. Wife, they will call her by sunset, though the law has signed the word by proxy and sealed it with wax instead of wisdom. I take her confession and hear the shy bravery of a child saying she will try to be good. I choose to see the person, not the pact. I choose patience over panic. I choose gentleness in counsel. I choose to cover shame, not spread it. I choose to be a shelter. On the steps, envoys applaud a future they have never met. A tutor bows too low, hiding tears. A nurse hides a ribbon in the travel chest, the last color that belongs only to her. The road to the foreign court is mapped in marriages and skirmishes, with milestones named for saints and sieges. The choir sings louder to drown the arithmetic. Spirit of comfort, cradle her fears. Lord, untangle these oaths. Father of lights, teach us wisdom. Angel of language, bridge the silence. God of the fatherless, defend the powerless. Now the gates yawn open, and the litter rises. Trumpets sharpen the morning until it bleeds gold. I lift my hand in blessing that is also protest, because sometimes holiness must be a hedge against hurry. Beyond the walls wait banners, burdens, and a table where strangers will weigh her smile like coin. Let the record show what love required and power refused. I release the hunger for spectacle. I lay down envy and pride. I will stand between harm and haste. I breathe for calm and clarity. Prince of Peace, crown her with safety. They bring a glove to the altar as if it were a living hand, and pin a painted portrait where a face should breathe. A ring slides onto velvet fingers. A vow is spoken to parchment that cannot blush. I stand beside the bishop while the hall pretends the stand-in is a spouse and the letter a heartbeat. Father, bless what is true. God, unmask deception. Holy Spirit, steady our tongues. Angel of warning, sound the bell. Angel of peace, stand at the threshold. The courier recites the groom's promise in a language she does not own. A translator irons the vowels until they fit the treaty. A silk token crosses the aisle, and scribes scratch like locusts in ripe wheat. The crowd cheers relief, not love. Another border held by ribbon and wax. I watch the bride nod to a name she has not yet met, a shadow married to a silhouette. I choose honesty over convenience. I choose to wait for clarity. I choose to honor my vows with light. I release the grip of pretense. Rumor gallops faster than heralds. The true groom is older than his portrait, limps where the painter gave him stride, keeps left hand where the glove was cut for right. Proxy makes a promise. Arrival makes a reckoning. When he finally enters the gate, dusty, smiling, and nothing like the ink, the room recalculates. Customs clash. In his court, a wife obeys the steward before the priest. In hers, the priest before the king. Contracts speak, but bodies will not be negotiated. The proxy wedding cannot consummate a conscience. The bed demands truth no scribe can sign. I refuse the theater of lies. I breathe humility into my counsel. Guardian angels, watch the exchange. Lord, teach us the language of trust. God of justice, weigh our signatures. Night lengthens into argument. Ambassadors shuffle parchments for escape hatches. An annulment if the glove deceived. A fine if the portrait lied. A truce if the heart revolts. I mark the tremor in the Queen's cup, the way the new husband studies the proxy ring like a stranger's fingerprint. The dancers slow, the candles gutter, the treaty learns it has a face. I choose reconciliation when pride stings. I lay aside suspicion that poisons. I open my heart to correction. Angel of truth, stand against the whisper. Father, guard the covenant this time. I will measure twice, speak once. By dawn, riders are already bound for Rome to ask if paper can marry blood dispensations, pedigrees, seals. The road out of this hole is paved with kinship too close for comfort and oaths too thin for winter. Tomorrow the genealogies will be unpacked like weapons, and every branch will creak under the weight of crowns. In the archive the air tastes of vellum and candle soot. Genealogists unroll trees like battle maps, tracing marriages that loop back upon themselves until cousins are mirrors and uncles are echoes. A papal bull waits under leaden seals, its cords red and yellow like arteries. One wax touch can mend a kingdom or unmake a conscience. Father of mercies, steady my hand. God of truth, purge our motives. Ancient of days, number our generations. Angel of discernment, sit at this ledger. They speak of degrees of kinship, as if distance were a fence against disaster. Third degree, fourth degree lines, drawn by scholars while midwives count the cost in cradles. I watch clerks ink circles around names that repeat like a prayer someone forgot to finish. A dispensation can declare what blood dares not. That love may proceed where caution trembles. Angel of records, witness each name. Spirit of counsel, keep us from pride. I choose reverence over rumor. I choose the narrow path of honesty. Without the seal, any child is a question that can topple a throne. With the seal, the question becomes a secret shared by bishops and kings. The envoy clears his throat, the chamber holds its breath. For the peace of Christendom, he says, and every mouth agrees to believe it. Yet I see how parchment comforts power more than truth comforts children. I choose to honor the living above the tree. I release fear of man. I release the need to polish lineage. I breathe patience into this room. At dusk, arguments soften into incense. The Queen's chaplain murmurs theology. The Chancellor murmurs arithmetic. The bull is opened. The room relaxes, as if permission were a sacrament. Outside, a nurse rocks a future heir who will never learn the price of his legitimacy. Inside, we congratulate ourselves on saving a realm from scandal. King of kings, quiet the factions. Guardian of the humble, protect the children. God of justice, weigh blood without favoritism. Father, teach us to prefer wisdom to convenience. Tomorrow the herald will proclaim grace. Tomorrow the poets will rhyme mercy with dynasty. But tonight the ink shines wet, and I hear the living branch creak under ancestral weight. Let this be recorded. The seal pardoned a union, not the system that demanded it. I lay down the idol of pedigree. I walk toward light, not secrecy. Angel of gentleness, cover the broken branches. Holy One, redeem our vows. Dawn stains the casement pink, while the corridor gathers like a jury. The sheet is borne through the hush as if it were scripture, edges pinched by matron hands that have delivered princes and rumors in equal number. The chamber has been remade into a courtroom, coffer for evidence, stool for testimony, brazier for the slow burn of shame. I stand where priest and clerk overlap, witness and wall. Righteous judge, look with mercy. Lord of compassion, cover the shamed. Healer of hearts, mend what fear has torn. Angel of modesty, veil what men would parade. Angel of equity, weigh without cruelty. Questions arrive in measured syllables. Did vows meet flesh? Did silence mean consent? The midwife swears to what candles saw. The steward swears to what he needed to be true. A bishop recites canon. A treasurer counts consequences. Here, modesty is a commodity, humiliation a tool, because a treaty, too fragile for war, leans on a woman's private storm. I mark the tremor in the queen's wrist, the way the king studies the floorboards like fault lines. I choose truth that does not humiliate. I choose tenderness over theater. I choose to defend the unseen. I refuse to profit from pain. I refuse the gossip that wounds. If they declare the night unsatisfied, borders will rattle. If satisfied, the echo will still accuse. Either way, the bed becomes a pulpit for politics that dare not speak their name. The law asks for clarity. The soul asks for kindness. The crowd asks for spectacle. I lower my pen until the ink remembers we are mortal. I release the verdict to your wisdom. I set down my pen before I harm. I will guard confidences. I will speak only what heals. I will stand in the doorway as a shield. At last, the brazier gutters. The matron nods. The bishop seals his phrase. The sheet goes one way, the rumor another. I bless the threshold and feel the blessing return. Like a whisper, kingdoms survive by secrets, but people survive by grace. Outside, the city stirs. Inside, two young faces learn how little a crown can protect. The herald clears his throat for news that will travel faster than truth. God of peace, quiet the tribunal. Father of the gentle, strengthen her courage. Spirit who comforts, breathe in this room. Angel of witness, record only the truth. Holy presence, close the curtain. She arrives with a language like rain-soft, steady, unfamiliar to our window panes. Her prayers sound of distant bells. Her cooks season bread with herbs the market calls weeds. Courtiers bow too low, then rise too stiff, as if courtesy could fence out strangeness. The chapel adjusts its candles. The kitchens argue with their spices. I walk beside her through corridors that listen for mistakes. Father, make strangers into neighbors. God of all nations, weave our tongues. Spirit of hospitality, open our doors. Angel of understanding, translate our hearts. Angel of peacekeeping, stand between the crowds. They press on her a hymn she cannot pronounce, and a smile that hurts at the corners. The old dowager counts which saints she names and which she forgets. A jester teaches gestures that are safe. A tutor edits her laughter to court length. Even the tapestries seem to watch, hoarding rumors like coins. I remind myself that holiness is older than heraldry, and kindness older than law. I choose curiosity over contempt. I choose to welcome what I fear. I choose to bless difference. I refuse the easy lie of exile. I lay down the spear of sarcasm. In the square, the fishmongers snarl about her fast days. The bakers grumble that her feast falls on a Tuesday. Children copy their parents' whispers. Soldiers copy their officers' frowns. Torches migrate toward the palace like migrating crows. The queen stands at a balcony and blesses them in the only word she owns. The blessing sounds like water poured on iron. Lord of nations, calm our borders. Mother of mercy, teach us kindness. Guardian of city gates, keep violence far. Wisdom from above, season our laws with grace. I will listen before I label. Night fattens with noise. I bring her a psalter and a cloak. She brings me questions no counsel will answer. What is a home if it despises the guest it asked for? What is a crown that cannot be worn without apology? Down in the great hall, the stewards argue menus as if menus were shields. Up here, a woman practices saying our names without fear. Somewhere a bell trips into frenzy, and I see tomorrow's feast for what it might become. I will hold the door open. I release bitterness inherited from stories. I breathe out suspicion and draw in peace. Angel of reconciliation, stitch the breach. Holy One, turn fear into welcome. At dawn, the city will taste her table and decide whether to spit or sing. And someone, perhaps, the same hand that lights the torches will lift a cup too slowly, watching her reflection tremble in the wine. The high table gleams like a reliquary, salt piled in little citadels, peacocks stitched back into their feathers, cups rimmed with saints' faces. Cup-bearers taste in ritual order bread, broth, wine, while a narwhal horn lies near the king, as if it could sniff treachery from steam. The hall laughs too loudly. Fear prefers noise. I stand behind the queen's chair and watch the procession of courage and dread. Father, guard every cup. God of purity, cleanse this table. Angel of vigilance, watch the tasters. Spirit of discernment, sift rumor from truth. Prince of peace, sit at the high table. In this country, suspicion is a seasoning. Women knot amulets into sleeves. Men press lips to rings that hide powdered bezoar. The steward speaks in fractions. 1 sip for the server, 2 for the herald. A brimming mouth for the condemned throat of courage. I note who swallows and who only wets the lip. A feast should marry households. This one weds appetite to panic. I choose calm over panic. I choose to check before I accuse. I choose to honor the living more than the toast. I unclench my fist and wait. I breathe slowly and count toward mercy. Then the third taster tilts as if the floor moved. A goblet rolls, red turning to a comet across the linen. Someone cries poison, and the word behaves like fire. Sudden, hungry, self-certain. Knives lift. Fingers point first at the foreign cooks, then at the foreign queen. She does not flinch. She folds her hands as if to cup the blaze. I raise mine and speak the oldest order. Peace first, proof second. Lord, muzzle the whisperers. Judge of all, vindicate the blameless. Angel of healing, steady the fallen. I refuse the thrill of accusation. The apothecary kneels with his kit. Vinegar, charcoal, prayers. He whispers of pewter and sour wine, of mushrooms that mimic malice, of fevers that strike like conspirators. I have seen how fear poisons quicker than arsenic. It needs only breath and a willing ear. The king's jaw hardens. The captains smell opportunity in the smoke of rumor. I set the cup aside and the room with it. I set down the cup of suspicion. I wash my hands of malice. I will stand between fury and the foreigner. I release the urge to punish a rumor. Holy wisdom, test our plates and our hearts. At last the taster coughs, curses the wine, and lives. The hall exhales the way a ship does after a wave that should have broken it. But the damage has been done where antidotes cannot reach, in the ledger of trust. By midnight, riders will gallop with embellished versions, and by morning, bankers will price the risk into dowry and grain. The Queen lifts her cup again, slower, braver. The crowd remembers how to swallow. The feast continues, thinner and truer. Father, keep poison real or imagined far from this house. The harbour roars like a choir gone mad. Crates stamped with lions and lilies buck and vanish. Bales of cloth gulp the dark like penitents without confession. Lanterns swing, alarms ring, and the tide writes its own treaty across the quay. I stand under the drenched eaves while factors count by lightning. The wedding's price is out at sea, where numbers become foam. Master of the sea, spare the small boats. Lord of the storm, remember the sailors. Angel of the harbour, lead the fleet home. Angel of provision, keep the ovens warm. Breath of life, steady our lungs. By dawn, piers are splinters, and the book of promises is waterlogged. Some say pirates, some say God. The bankers say default, with a tenderness sharpened by interest. A courier kneels with a salt-stiff letter. 3 ships missing, 2 broken, 1 limped into an enemy cove. The treasurer lifts his eyes the way a condemned man studies the sky curious, not hopeful. I choose steadiness in scarcity. I choose fairness when ledgers ache. I choose to speak truth to debt. I release the glamour of gold. I release despair dressed as prudence. In the counting room, pearls are reimagined as wheat, tapestries as roofs, silver as soldiers' bread. The Queen reads silently, lips moving over phrases like temporary lien and good faith collateral, as if a marriage could be mortgaged like a mill. She twists her ring yesterday, a promise, today a receipt. Somewhere a seamstress unpicks a train to feed a family, and faith looks suspiciously like arithmetic. God of the poor, count every kitchen. Father of orphans, shelter the apprentices. Spirit of resurrection, raise what can be saved. Angel of commerce, cleanse the scales. Ancient navigator, set a safe course. By evening, the banker's seal shines on a palace door no poet ever thought would carry such wax. The crown, they say, has pawned a corner of its own reflection. I counsel the king to pay in humility first, to walk the market, to name the losses, to promise less and keep it. He nods the way a cliff nods to waves by staying. I will honor labor before luxury. I will open my hands to give. I will wait for the tide without panic. Giver of peace, calm the counting room. Holy provider, keep us from usury. Night falls clean, as if the sky has finished crying. Tomorrow the herald will call it providence. Tomorrow the creditors will call it due. Between those voices stands a bride whose dowry turned to weather, and a country learning how fragile vows become when they float. Banners split the city into mirrors that refuse to agree. One side braids lilies into their hair, the other side wears thorns of rumor. 2 processions circle the same cathedral, circling like hawks over one altar. I, the confessor, stand at a door used by penitents and kings, listening to hymns that rhyme with steel. A cradle waits inside. Outside, drums decide which mother may claim lullabies. King of peace, still our factions. Father of truth, unbias our hearts. Spirit of unity, knit what pride has torn. Angel of judgment, stand at the scales. Angel of courage, steady the timid. The first queen brings a ring older than the river. The second brings the river's map. Witnesses swear by knights and by needles, by sheets and by seals. Lawyers unroll scrolls that sound like sieges. Midwives speak in soft thunder. Each camp calls the other, counterfeit, as if crowns were stamped like coins and souls like wax. I choose people over parties. I choose to bless before I argue. I choose to hold my tongue when heat rises. I release the need to win. I renounce bitterness masquerading as zeal. In the nave, candles gutter as if the air itself is undecided. The child small, breathing bewildered, sleeps between signatures. I pray over the cradle and over the bell rope that could summon a war with one sharp tug. Captains bargain for streets, priests bargain for phrases, merchants bargain for mourning without barricades. The parchment shivers on the altar, a leaf caught between seasons. Shepherd King, protect the child. Guardian of mothers, keep them from harm. Lord of councils, confound the violent. Angel of strategy, frustrate the sword. By dusk, rumor has armored itself. Neighbors become uniforms. The palace hangs 2 tapestries, one for each claim, then watches which one gathers dust. I walk the corridor where both queens pace opposite tides, each woman memorizing the other's footsteps through stone. When they finally meet, a silence taller than the throne stands between them. I bless them both and feel the blessing pull like a torn seam. I will stand in the breach for peace. I will speak life into the council. I will listen for the quiet truth. I lay down inherited grudges. I forgive what banners cannot. Holy One of Israel, teach us to choose mercy. At midnight, the bells stay mute, neither victory nor funeral. Only the child wakes and cries, and for a moment the city hears what crowns forget. Tomorrow, the decision will write itself on doors and ledgers. Tonight, we hold our breath, and the cradle keeps its counsel. The priest lifts his stole like a bandage. Vinegar steams in bowls beside the altar. Ash marks the door where hands won't. The ring slips, strikes stone, and the sound runs through the nave like a cough no one dares claim. Faces hide behind linen and fear, eyes bright above veils that turn breath into prayer. I stand to the side with oil and salt, blessing a union that must pass through sickness before it meets joy. Father, spare the breath of the fearful. Physician of souls, tend the broken. Angel of clean air, sweep this room. Lord, teach our hands to bless, not hoard. Outside, carts creak like slow thunder, and chalk flowers bloom on shuttered doors. The bell ringer works in pairs, now one to tug the rope, one to watch if he staggers. Streets measure distance in the width of grief. Windows speak with knots of ribbon and scraps of psalm. The wedding proceeds in a hush that saves voices for goodbye. I choose caution without cruelty. I choose love over loneliness. I choose presence over panic. I release the superstition of blame. I refuse to brand the sick as sin. We abbreviate joy. Vows are shaved to bone. Yes, yes in sickness and in sickness, until health answers. The bride's bouquet is rosemary and rue. The groom's glove smells of smoke. I anoint their foreheads and hear the choir from far away, as if the city has learned to sing through cloth. The notary signs with a coal that stains his sleeve like evening. Spirit of consolation, sit by the bed. Holy wisdom, number our days with mercy. Guardian of the gate, watch the quarantines. Prince of peace, quiet the bells of terror. God of the widow and orphan, encircle the street. At the kiss, they bow instead, and the bow feels older than any custom two beings agreeing to be careful with each other. Rice is forbidden. Blessings fall like rain the hand does not see. I carry the chalice back along a nave divided into islands of kin. When the doors open, the air moves as if relieved to be trusted. A decree arrives at dusk. No gatherings until the moon has turned twice. This was the last wedding for a while. and perhaps the truest one. I open my windows to hope. I lay down the dagger of rumor. I will carry bread to the door. I will be a mask of kindness, angel of passing, guide the last watch, eternal light. Remember the names we cannot speak. The ledger smells of smoke and tallow, a book that sweats like a soldier after vespers. I keep 2 inks, one for sins that break the heart, another for prudences that break the realm. Margins bloom with dates and initials. The spine remembers hands that shook when truth grew too heavy. Tonight, the lamp grinds its small sun across the page, and I measure what can be carried without turning mercy into evidence. Father of lights, keep my ink honest. God who sees in secret, shield what must be hidden. Spirit of counsel, steady my hands. Angel of discretion, sit at the door. The queen kneels first, voice like frost melting in a cup. She confesses loneliness with the shape of a treaty, tenderness with nowhere to land. I write in the code we learned from monks who buried wars under psalms. Then the king arrives. Late, perfumed, afraid asking absolution for tempers that gallop faster than banners. Between them, I hear a nation breathing through a thin reed. Angel of truth, sift my motives. I choose conscience over court. I choose silence where souls are at stake. I choose to bind wounds, not trade them. By noon the ministers come, smiling like locksmiths. They do not ask for God, they ask for leverage. Only the headings, they swear, only the names. I close the book and feel the room grow teeth. Power loves paper because paper does not weep. I lay down the coin of gossip. I release fear of princes. Prince of peace, arbitrate my pages. Shepherd of the broken, guard the queen. Judge of hearts, untie the king's knots. Night deepens, keys weigh my belt like verdicts. I rebind the ledger with a pilgrim's cord and seal it with a prayer no wax can counterfeit. Outside, the cloister stones sweat. Rumor prowls in soft shoes. My breath fogs the lamp and the margins look back like narrow roads through snow. Breath of God, cool this brazier of rumor, holy wisdom, number what should be numbered and no more. I will carry secrets like a cross, not a cudgel. When I rise to lock the chest, the keyhole grins empty. Footsteps, quick and barefoot, fade toward the sacristy. Somewhere, a hinge complains like a conscience. If the ledger leaves this room, the city will learn our prayers by blacklist. I lift the book and the bell rope together. I will speak only what heals. Guardian angels, patrol this ledger. Lord of mercy, erase what repentance has already paid. Deliverer, bar the thief at midnight. Storm on the tiles. Storm in the corridors. Torches tilt like wheat in a cruel wind, while seals crack with the sound of ribs. Pages run with empty scabbards. Captains trade colors faster than prayer. In the chapel, I wrap the anointing oil and linen sacrament going backward, a mass unwound. The throne room smells of wet wool and verdicts. Somewhere a key is turned twice. Somewhere a banner is folded, as if tucking in a child who will wake to another name. Father, quiet the thunder within us. God of justice, unmask our motives. Spirit of courage, keep my feet steady. Angel of night, watch, guard the doors. Prince of peace, turn swords into silence. The queen moves like a candle, cupped in 2 hands. Her ladies carry nothing but breath. Even jewels sound too loud tonight. In the treasury, crowns lie on their sides, suddenly heavy with explanation. The chancellor writes a decree that reads like an apology no one will sign. I mark each small loyalty hands that shake yet do not drop the latch, eyes that do not look away when fear commands. I choose fidelity when crowds sway. I choose the harder truth over easy triumph. I set the crown down in my heart. I renounce the theatre of revenge. In the courtyard, rain erases chalk lines meant to divide us. The mob chants names as if they were passwords to a safer century. A trumpet falters. The gatehouse remembers childhood and refuses to betray. I lift my stole and make a corridor of blessing through which the small may pass. A cradle thumps against a nurse's ribs as she runs. A ring goes cold on a king's hand. I will not trade rumor for policy. I breathe out panic. I draw in patience. Keeper of covenants, remember the child. Holy wisdom, teach us how to end without ruin. Angel of mercy, cover the fleeing. Midnight signs its name on every window. We reverse ceremonies, unbelt the sword, unpin the mantle, unname the room where pride kept counsel. I wipe the chrism from the chair where foreheads bent, and the cloth grows heavy as history. At the postern, a guard whispers, "Go," and means live. I bless him like a father who has only seconds to love well. Father of lights, guide us through the blackout. I step between the fist and the face. I forgive what fear has shouted. I wait until dawn to judge. God of the lowly, shelter the servants. Eternal One, receive what we cannot carry. By cockcrow the city will call this justice or treason. Tonight it is only rain, and the sound of a crown learning it is just a circle of metal without a soul to bear it. The attic above the palace is cooler than a chapel and louder than a memory. Veils hang from a beam like winter light lace. Linen, a scrap singed at the edge. A glove sleeps in a glass. A cup bears a crescent scratch. A ribbon remembers a cradle that outgrew its lullaby. I turn the key, and the room exhales the centuries it has been holding. Father of stories, sanctify our memory. God of remembrance, keep the record kind. Holy Comforter, fold these veils with grace. Angel of archives, guard what should not be shown. Angel of memory, keep the names whole. Each object testifies without asking permission. Here is the bedsheet that became a treaty, the ledger that learned to blush, the ring that weighed more than cities, the map puckered where dowry ships sank. Perfume survives where brides did not. Salt whitens where tears have turned to quiet. I smooth a crease and hear the ceremony repeat itself. Music, rumor, verdict, until the refrain finds me older than the room. I choose remembrance without resentment. I choose to honor the nameless. I choose endings that heal beginnings. I release nostalgia that edits pain. I release the myth that power equals love. What were royal weddings? Armories disguised as altars, lawsuits embroidered with lilies, fear tasting the wine before hope could. The cost was written in bodies long before it was stamped in gold. Yet there were survivors, a nurse who ran faster than banners, a baker who shared bread when the palace pawned its pride, a child who learned to sleep without trumpets. History is cruel when it pretends to be only grand. Teacher of hearts, write mercy into our histories. Renewer of minds, unmask the glamour of crowns. Lord of the living, free us from relics that wound. Angel of perspective, widen our sight. Angel of silence, protect the sacred quiet. I close the case and bless the dust. The veils keep their stories. The city keeps its shadows. I keep a vow to tell the truth as softly as linen falls. May love be measured by bread shared, not sheets displayed, by doors held open, not gates barred. I lock the door and leave one candle for the moths who mistake gold for sunrise. I will keep vigil for the quiet. I will carry the veil gently. I will tell the truth without theater. Keeper of hope, plant new vows in ordinary homes. Eternal friend, walk us out of spectacle into peace.